Hey, hello YouTube, it's me here, and today I'm going to show you how to counter elusives. Now, the first tip of the day on how to counter elusives is that if you cannot beat them, join them. I'm just joking. Okay, guys, this video is gonna be a thorough guide on how to counter elusives, and it's gonna be broken down into 3 parts. The first part is that I'm going to introduce what an elusive deck normally does and what's their winning conditions. And then the second part is gonna be the 4 main strategies that I'm going to talk about on how to deal with elusives. And the third part is gonna be me teaching you guys how to implement the strategies into different decks of each region. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Guys, before watching my video, remember to smash the like and subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and new contents and videos will be posted every week, so stay tuned and enjoy. Alright, so the first part, let's talk about what an elusive deck normally does and how would elusive decks win. Elusive decks wanted to bring out their elusive units early in the game and then beat you down within maybe 7 rounds or so. And because elusive units can only be blocked by elusive units, so basically in a lot of the time you will just see them running down, steamrolling your nexus, and then you cannot do anything. In the last patch, basically elusive decks normally tries to focus on buffing their strong elusive units like Kinko Lifeblade or like Green Blade Duel or maybe the Empyrean with maybe the Inspiring Mentor or the Jeweled Protector. But then in this patch right now, the elusive decks has evolved, and basically the Omen Hawk does the buffing part. And the main carries of the elusive decks is gonna be Zed and Kinko Lifeblade. So basically the strategy of the deck is to buff up Kinko Lifeblade and Zed with either the Omen Hawk or the Jeweled Protector. Now, knowing what an elusive deck normally does, it's time to jump right into how to counter the elusive decks. Alright, so now let's talk about the 4 main strategies of beating elusives. The first tip of the day is to be faster than the elusives. What it means by that is that we wanted to have a deck that steamrolls or rushes even faster than the elusive units. What that does is that if a deck can summon a lot of units on the board in the early game, it forces your opponent to either lose a lot of HP in their nexus, or it forces them to use their elusive units to block your attacks. So what it does is that because elusive units can only be killed by either using spells or skills, or if they use their elusive units to block your attacks. So basically, in this first strategy, you want to focus on summoning a lot of units onto the board and then attack with all of them. And then what it does is that it might forces your opponent to use their units to block you so that their elusive units can die. There are actually a lot of examples on a great steamroll or rush decks. For example, the very common Spider aggro deck where everybody is using basically focuses on summoning fearsome spiders, a lot of them very early on. Other decks such as Hybrid Ninja deck or the new Noxus Burn deck that focuses on dealing damages to the opponent's nexus, or even the meme Elnuk decks can do pretty well against elusives. Next up, the second tip is to kill the elusives with damaging spells or skills. For each and every of your deck, I really recommend you guys to put in at least 4 to 5 damaging spells. And there are actually a lot of choices of damaging spells in the game. For example, Black Spear, Mystic Shot, Get Excited, Avalanche, or even Culling Strike. Just a lot of them in general. By adding them, you can kill off their elusive units early on, and this really prevents them the elusive decks from rushing down your Nexus within like 5 rounds. The third tip right here is to slow down the elusive decks with crowd control spells. There are quite some examples of crowd control spells. The main part of them would be Frostbite and Stun. Especially Frostbite is actually very powerful or very effective against elusives. Frostbite decks generally does very well against elusives. And because crowd control spells like Frostbite and Stun stops their elusive units from attacking, and basically if they failed to steamroll you early on in the game, then most of the time their deck will fall off mid to late game, and then your deck will supposedly be stronger. So basically using crowd control spells in the early game to control the attacks of the elusive units is a very effective way to slow down the elusive decks. Now the last way, the fourth way to stop elusive is by using challenger units. And challenger units can actually force the elusive units to block your attacks. And there are quite some examples of challenger units, for example Fiora, Thresh, or the Rimfang Wolves in the Freljord decks. Basically by summoning challenger units and then using the challenger units to force their elusive units to block your attacks is a very good way, very efficient way to kill off their elusive units. Okay, so now I've talked about the 4 main strategies on how to kill off their elusive units. Now, I am going to talk about how to implement those strategies into decks in each region. So first off, for Shadow Isles, there are a lot of choices of steamroll decks in Shadow Isles. For example, Spider Aggro, and a lot of mid-range deck like Hakirim, which is very powerful, and maybe a lot of decks in Shadow Isles also focuses on using Mist Wraiths and Wraith Callers to basically bring out the fearsome units out onto the board to steamroll your opponent, which is very effective against elusive units because fearsome decks can rush faster than elusive decks, and it basically forces the elusive decks to use the elusive units to block your attacks. It is almost always beneficial for you for a Shadow Isles deck to add 3 Black Spears into your deck. Okay, for Demacia, you can use steamrolling decks like the Elite deck that focuses on using the Battlesmith to buff up your elites. And Elite decks are actually very powerful. They are very good in the early game. They basically just steamrolls the game with very powerful units with high strength and high HP. And for Demacia decks, you can also add in spells like for Demacia or single combat, or even add in some challenger units that also fits into the deck. For example, the Swift Wing Lancer or Silver Wing Vanguard, which they are challenger units. So as I've said, challenger units are very strong, very counter to elusive units. Okay, for Freljord is an easy win against elusives. A lot of Freljord decks just focuses on frostbiting your opponents. The Rimfang Wolf plus Frostbite combo is actually very strong, very counter to elusive. And most of the Ash decks also focuses on frostbiting your opponent, so this is also a very good choice to slow down the elusive decks. And if you're not running an Ash deck, you can also add spells like Brittle Steel and Flash Freeze to slow down the elusive decks by frostbiting them. Okay, for P and Z deck, the 2 most common decks in the P and Z is gonna be the Ezreal deck or the Heimerdinger deck. For Ezreal deck, it is also very easy to beat the elusives because for P and Z, there are actually a lot of controlling spells. For example, Mystic Shot and Get Excited, Thermogenic Beam. Just the three of them is basically a must in every P and Z deck. So basically you just add all of them into your deck, and whenever they summons an elusive unit, if it has 2 HP, then use Mystic Shot. If it has 1 HP, then you use Thermogenic Beam when you have 1 mana left. And then if they have 3 HP, then use Get Excited. Just easy as that. And then your Ezreal is gonna get tons of stacks. It just works perfectly, synergizes very well with Ezreal. And for Heimerdinger deck, Heimer actually steamrolls very well starting from round 5. So basically, while synergizing with Mystic Shot, Thermogenic Beam, and then Get Excited, you can eliminate your opponent's board while summoning a lot of fleeting turrets onto your board, and basically steamrolls the game before the elusive decks. For Noxus deck, you can add in damaging spells like Culling Strike, which is very effective to kill off the early elusive units. And then for every Noxus deck, I recommend you to add in the Trifarian Glory Seeker, which has 5 strength and 1 HP, and is a challenger card. So a very, very powerful card to kill off even later elusive units, like a buffed up Kinko Lifeblade with 5 health. One more thing is the new Noxus, new very popular Noxus burn deck that focuses on burning your opponent's Nexus by summoning units like the Legion Saboteur and the Boom Crew Rookie. And this deck is very powerful and very, very fast. And it's even faster than the elusive decks. So it's not going to be a problem if you're using this deck. And you basically steamrolls the game faster than the elusives. So yeah. And last but not least is going to be Ionia. If you're using Ionia, then I recommend you to just put in a few elusive units. For example, the main one is gonna be Shadow Assassin. It's basically a must in Ionia decks. A very good card for utilities. And if you are really facing a lot of elusive decks, then you can add in 1 to 2 Ghost into your deck to slow down the elusives. Okay, before ending the video, here is a final tip. So I've talked about a lot of cards, a lot of different cards and strategies on how to counter the elusives. As you may know, it is not really possible to put all of them into your deck because there's just not enough space and it's not really worth it, but all of them just to counter elusives, because not all of your opponents use elusives, right? So you have to adjust between your games. And if you can see like around 2 to 3 elusive decks in a row, while you are climbing in ranked games, then maybe it's a good time to start putting in 2 to 3 more cards to specifically counter the elusives, because the ranked that you belongs has a lot of players currently playing elusive decks. So you can adjust your deck by such strategy. If you meet a lot of them while climbing, then just add some more elusive counter to your deck. And basically this is the end of the video. If you liked my video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and feel free to leave any comments down below, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.